Hi, Dallas.
Hi, Karen.
Thank you. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm really well.
Jolly good, thank you. I just want to say thank you for agreeing to take part in our interview for International Women's Day. Uh, this year, the theme is about breaking the bias, which means a lot of different things to a lot of different
Mm.
people. You yourself have had an interesting and varied career with a breadth of experience. You started your career as a nurse and have gone on to be a specialist clinician, moved from the NHS to the charity sector, and reached the dizzy heights as an executive. Can you give us a brief synopsis of your journey?
Yeah, of course I can, Karen. Yeah, so I was lucky enough to go to an all-girls grammar school for my education, but it became clear quite soon that I wasn't going to go down what was expected of me with regard to a university career or go off and become a lawyer, etc. So I actually decided to go into nursing. And that wasn't a career that I'd wanted to do since I was little. It was a career that appealed to me at that time. There was a large teaching hospital down the road from me. So I decided to go into nursing. And quite quickly, I realised that that was absolutely the right thing for me to do. I loved it. And I became very, very drawn in my clinical career to areas like palliative care, end of life care, the areas where you could really get to know people and bond with people and make a very, very special difference. So I spent actually about a decade in specialist palliative end of life care. As a nurse. And at that time, my ultimate aim was to become a community Macmillan nurse.
Yeah.
But I'd managed to do that by the time I was in my late 20s. So I'd reached one of my career goals quite quickly. And then I made the decision to go into leadership and management and leave the clinical nursing behind, which is quite a brave thing to do sometimes, because people feel that you're turning your back on your vocation and you're becoming one of them, one of the managers. So, but I decided that I could still make a real difference as a leader and a manager. And I actually stayed in the NHS for 26 years, and I took various senior management roles as the NHS did reconfigurations and transformations as is their wont. And I actually ended up being a chief operating officer for community services for children and adults for a county. And I loved it. But after 26 years in the NHS, I had lost that feeling that I was making the difference that I wanted to make.
Sure.
So I took the decision to go into the charity sector. And lots of people at the time told me that that was a bit of a soft option, a bit pink, a bit fluffy, charity sector was never going to be.
They know.
Yeah, little did they know. And I joined a national organisation as a director of operations. And it was around sexual and contraceptive health. And I did love it. And I was learning lots and lots. But after just a couple of years, somebody told me that a big hospice in London, Trinity Hospice in Clapham Common in London, were looking for a chief executive. And I just couldn't resist. It took me back to my nursing roots, my love of end-of-life care. And so I became chief executive at Royal Trinity Hospice for 8 years. And then we can talk more about this. But after 8 years, I made the decision to step away from being a chief executive, to step away from that commute into London. Sure. And now I'm incredibly proud to say I'm Director of Services for a UK charity, Lymphoma Action, based here in Aylesbury, my hometown.
Wow. I mean, so much in such a short time. What were the driving factors for you to take on the roles that you have throughout your career? In the past, you've talked about your EDI work and being true to yourself at all times. And I know you have some great mottos. I've heard you saying them before, that you live and work by. Can you share some insights on that for us?
Yeah, I think there's been a real mix of driving factors, as there probably should be, Karen. I mean, some of them were situational. I needed to make a decision, so I made a decision. Many of them were around my ambitions, what I wanted to do, how I wanted to feel at the end of the day when I went home from work, the people around me, curiosity sometimes, wanting to give something a go, searching for that right thing that made me feel good, made me want to get out of bed in the morning and go to work. And a little bit of fate, I think. I think sometimes things do happen because they're supposed to, but we have a part to play in making those things available to us. But there has been, you're right, there has been a constant thread through everything I've done, and that is about trying to influence how people are treated with fairness and respect, treating people as I would want to be treated myself. And in the workplace, that translates into equality, diversity and inclusion, doesn't it? We all talk about health inequalities, we all talk about inclusion and diversity agenda. But that's been a personal value for me for a very long time, even if I haven't given it that label. Because you're right, I really do believe that if we are authentic, and if as leaders and managers, we enable people to bring their authentic selves to work with them, we will get the very, very best out of them. And it doesn't need to be authentic in terms of protected characteristics. It doesn't need to be about the LGBTQ agenda, the gender agenda. It's about those people being able to say what their insecurities are, what makes them anxious, what makes them fearful, what excites them as well. So there's very much me as a leader, I want people to feel that they can be authentic. So that has been a little bit of a golden thread, actually, a driving force for me. And I do have lots of sayings, you're right. Many I've picked up from people, obviously, who have influenced me along the way, and some I've kind of made up on the hoof. But one that makes me smile is that whole leaving the NHS to go into the charity world. And I talk to people about putting the business head on the charity heart, just to try and illustrate that actually working in charity is not pink and fluffy and an easy ride. It's far from it. Other ones, I quite often say it'll be what it'll be, because I don't believe in using up valuable energy in trying to influence things that we can't influence. And also being part of the solution and not part of the problem is something that I'm sure my colleagues would say they've heard come out of my mouth quite a bit as well.
I think we can all take a bit of learning from that. Certainly, I know that I should think that way myself sometimes, so that they are great mottos, I've got to say. So what's been your experience as you've moved around in your career? You've talked about when you moved from CEO to the current Director of Services. What kind of reactions were you met with? People thinking that they had the right to comment on the decisions that you made for yourself. And, it's okay for you to change your mind in pursuit of your happiness. Can you talk a bit more about that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all have thoughts and opinions, don't we, on how life should pan out, how careers should progress. And I think there were lots of times in my career, in my life, indeed, where people have kind of gone, that was an interesting decision, Dallas. Why did you do that? And you're right. The reason I did it was because I was looking for what made me happy, what I was comfortable with, what I felt was the right thing for me. And I think, maybe people would say that was a selfish opinion, but actually, if you don't look after yourself, how do you then lead, manage and look after other people? I don't believe that you can do that. So yes, people have had opinions. And when I decided to step down from being chief executive, I think there were many people that assumed my career pathway would be chief executive of a medium-sized charity, and then I'd become chief executive of a large charity. And indeed, I did look at that path and I did begin to pursue that path. But I realised during the pandemic, and I realised after the death of two very close friends, that wasn't where I wanted to expend my energy. I wanted to step away from being a chief executive. I wanted to step away from 4 to 5 hours commuting every day to go into work. And I wanted to find the energy to have a work-life balance, to still do an amazing job, still be a great leader, I hope, still do good things and make a difference, but actually also put myself first, put myself on a balance, and my family and my friends, balancing my career with that. But people didn't understand. People thought I was taking an easy route, that I was stepping back, that I was slowing down, that I was looking towards retirement. And it couldn't be further from the truth, Karen. I'm busier than ever. I'm loving what I'm doing. I'm making a great difference to a fantastic charity. I've also become the chair of the board of a very, very large care provider charity as well. So I found the time to do that and give energy somewhere else as a volunteer.
Yeah.
And all of that makes me happy. So maybe it wasn't the path that people thought I should do. Maybe it wasn't the path people felt I should do because of my skills or my ambition or something. But I made the decision for me.
Yeah.
And that was the right decision. I'm really happy.
I think just hearing you say, to give your best self in order to be your best for everyone else and for the organisations and the people that you support, I think that just says it all. And, brave decision and fair play to you, because there's a lot of people that think they want to do something for themselves in their life, but don't take that step. So it's really encouraging to hear that you were able to do that.
Yeah.
The theme for International Women's Day is breaking the bias. I think you really evidenced how that's possible throughout our conversation. Any advice you would give to our audience?
Oh, gosh. Yeah. I suppose the first thing I'd say is what I have done is not for everybody. So I'm not advocating that people take massive career change decisions on a whim. So please, nobody think that. But what I would say is, your path is not set. You don't have to conform to what society or all the people around you expect you to do. It's up to you to set your own path. And, you need to surround yourself with people who love and support you to do that. And you don't set out to hurt or shock anybody just for the sake of it. You respect other people, you respect what they're doing, but respect yourself and have enough bravery and enough courage to do what you know is going to make you feel good, make you feel happy, look after your own health and well-being. Because going back to my end of life roots, life is short and we have to make the very, very best that we possibly can from it.
And I guess, doing what you do, you are reminded of that probably more often than the rest of us. And perhaps we could all, stop and think about things like that sometimes in order to kind of encourage us to take the brave decisions we need to. I can't thank you enough for taking part. I'm actually truly inspired. I've listened.
Bless you, thank you.
I'm sure our followers and listeners will be in awe, just as I am. You have the courage to make your decisions to do what you do and change your narrative. I want to wish you the very best in the future, whatever that future looks like for you.
Thank you.
And having heard from you today, I think there's probably still more to come. So, Dallas, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Karen. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.